my friend. Welcome to the Chronically Me podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and in today's episode, we are talking about how to be friends with your chronic illness. Did you know that's possible? Let's talk about it. If you live chronically ill like me and are looking for more purpose, control, and joy in your life, then you are in the right place. This is the podcast that challenges your thinking around chronic illness so you can live the most amazing life despite extra challenges. Are you ready? Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited about this episode. I think I'm always excited about the podcast, but today I'm very excited because this is an idea I came up with the other day and I kind of threw it on Instagram, mentioned it, what I was thinking about, and so many people were like, oh my gosh, this idea is genius. Like, why have I never thought about this? And I was thinking the same thing. Why do we feel like we are enemies with our illness? What if instead we could be friends? We're going to talk about that today. Before we get started, I just want to mention I have some new t-shirts, hats, fanny packs, sweatshirts, like crew neck sweatshirts on my website that I am so excited about. The one I'm wearing today, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see it, but it has a flower on it and it says out of spoons, full of hope. So it's for all my spoonies out there who feel like you are out of energy, out of physical strength. Although we're out of spoons, we're going to stay full of hope. And this is probably my favorite, not one of my favorite. This is my favorite of all the designs. I wear my crew neck sweatshirt version of this almost every day. I'm obsessed with it. So anyway, there's lots of fun designs. I'm super excited about the new hats and fanny packs. I don't know why I've been obsessed with fanny packs lately, but I got some new ones on there. So go check those out if you're interested. Okay, that's enough about my clothes. So let's talk about being friends with our chronic illness. So raise your hand if you feel like your chronic illness is your enemy. If you feel like you are constantly fighting against your chronic illness. My hand is raised right now. I am 100% in the camp many days of feeling like I'm butting heads with my chronic illness constantly. My chronic illness is constantly trying to hurt me. It's tearing me down, and I'm trying to fight against it. So let's look up the definition of enemy. So if you go to Oxford Languages, this is the first thing that comes up if you type it into Google. Oxford Languages says two different definitions for enemy. A person who is actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. The other is a thing that harms or weakens something else. I think when we hear this, our first initial thought is that enemies need to be two separate people coming at each other, right? Your illness is coming at you and is harming and weakening you. And you are coming and opposing your illness, right? It's like you're doing something, your illness is doing something. You're fighting against each other. So before we get into kind of the nitty-gritty of this, I have this idea of relationships that has absolutely changed my entire world and the way that I view it. So it's crazy when you first hear it, like most of the things I say. It sounds crazy, but just try it on. Take it in your life and see what you think of it. Most people, when they hear the word relationship, they think it's between two or more people, right? It's my relationship with my husband is how he feels about me and how I feel about him. That's how most people think a relationship is. But that is not how I define a relationship. I think, now stay with me, I think that a relationship is in our heads. All relationships are in our own brains. My relationship with my husband is in my brain. It's my thoughts about him. His relationship with me is his thoughts about me. I know, it sounds crazy, but I really think that it does not matter, really doesn't matter what someone else thinks of you. You get to decide your own relationship with them. And although people can influence us, and typically I don't enjoy having a relationship with someone who treats me poorly, who isn't kind to me, who doesn't tell me that they love me or doesn't do certain things for me. Like, I don't like having a relationship with them. But it's actually possible to believe that you're friends with someone, whether they believe they're friends with you or not. Do you know how many times in my life I have had a moment where I thought I was better friends with someone than they did, or I liked a boy in college who didn't like me back. I had this relationship with him. He had a completely different relationship with me. I once went on a date with someone, one single date. And there's nothing wrong with this person. He's a great person. But I just wasn't really interested in him, in dating him. I was wanting to be friends with him. We went on one single date. And to me, that meant we went on a single date and we were friends. And to him, he thought we were dating. He thought we were boyfriend, girlfriend. So after our first date, he asked me why I was flirting with other guys or talking to other guys. And I said, because I like flirting with guys. I don't know. And he said, we don't do that to your boyfriend. And I said, I don't have a boyfriend. And he said, no, we're dating. Remember we went on that date? We're boyfriend, girlfriend. And I'm like, no, we're not. To me, there's a difference between boyfriend, girlfriend and going on one date. And we had never discussed it. We never talked about it. But to him, I was his girlfriend in his mind. And now, again, there's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't doing it wrong. He wasn't saying the wrong things or whatever. That's his opinion. But to me, my opinion was, if you want to be boyfriend, girlfriend with someone, you need to talk to them about it. You need to go on multiple dates with this person. You need to decide together if you're going to be boyfriend, girlfriend. And to him, it was totally different. His relationship with me was in his brain. Even today with my spouse, who I am in love with, who I believe is in love with me, what happens in his head is his relationship with me. What happens in my head is my relationship with him. We think that another person has to do or say or be something in order to be in a relationship with that person. But no, we get to decide however we want. One of my friends from college on Instagram has been posting about this makeup. And don't look at my makeup if you're watching on YouTube, because I haven't tried it out yet. But she's just this makeup expert. And I felt awkward messaging her and asking her for her advice on makeup and seeing if I wanted to purchase some from her, because I didn't know how good of friends we were. And I thought in my head we were really good friends, but what if she doesn't think we're good friends? And I kind of got all up in my head, and I'm like, Aimee, it doesn't matter. I believe that we were good friends in college. I follow her on Instagram. I like her. I love her content. I want to purchase this makeup from her. Why does that make me nervous? Because her relationship with me does not have to affect my relationship with her. Now, often it does, like I said. Often if my husband comes to me and says, Aimee, I love you, I'm madly in love with you, you're beautiful, and talks me up, it makes me have thoughts about how good our relationship is. And I start to have thoughts about how much I love him, oftentimes. But if someone who I don't feel that love for comes to me and says that, it's a different experience. The idea is that all of our relationships are in our own heads and we get to decide what they are. If you think you have a bad relationship with someone, it's up to you to change that if you want to. But there are people who I have bad relationships with and I'm like, I don't want to change that. I don't want to spend more time with that person. It's toxic to me. This person maybe makes it hard for me to think positive about myself or whatever, right? Like, we have those thoughts and people influence us, but I still get to decide how I feel about another person, whether or not they feel that way about me. There have been times where my spouse is so loving and kind to me, and I am in a bad mood and I'm being rude back to him. And he is still choosing to love me and still choosing to think that we're having a great day and having a great time together, even if in my mind, I'm having a really crappy day and we're not having a good time together, right? Like, our relationship is really just in our own heads. Think about it. Like, think about how many times someone has misunderstood your relationship. They thought you were better friends than you thought they were, or you thought you were closer to someone, and then you find out that they didn't think you were that close. We just get to decide for ourselves. Even if my husband never told me he loved me, I could still believe that we are in love. Even if he tells me he loves me every day, I could still believe that we're not in love, right? It's up to me and my brain what our relationship is. I genuinely think relationships happen in our own heads. And we get to decide what we want about that relationship. If someone treats you in a way you don't like, maybe you don't want to believe that you are in a close relationship with that person. But it's your decision. You get to decide that. We've all seen people who are in a relationship with someone who isn't kind to them, and yet they stay with that person. They give all their love to that person. They do more in love and kindness towards that person. And it's because they get to choose their relationship with that person, and their person gets to choose their relationship with them. We have our own relationships in our mind. We get to decide. Even if someone says, Aimee, I hate you, I can still say, you know what, I love you. Or I like you, right? I get to decide what our relationship is like. And it's awesome when two people in a relationship view their relationship the same way. But even my husband and I, who I think have a very good relationship, do not see perfectly eye to eye on everything. There are times where I think everything's going great. He doesn't think everything's going great. Or vice versa. I go to him and say, hey, this thing's been really bothering me. He's like, I had no idea that was bothering you. And I've been thinking about it nonstop, right? Because my relationship with him is in my mind. Okay. Do we get all that out there? I know I went into that a lot, but that is kind of the foundation for this whole episode, is that it doesn't matter what someone else, or in this case, we're talking about chronic illness, what something else does to you, says to you, thinks about you. You get to decide what your relationship with that person or thing is, right? You get to decide what your relationship with your dog is. Yeah? Like, your dog will love you unconditionally, and you get to decide what your relationship is with that dog. So I promise we'll get back to the enemy-friend thing. We need to keep this in our minds first, that our relationship with someone else or with our illness is not about what that person or thing does or says or thinks. It's about what we think about that thing or person, okay? So if that's what a relationship is, if a relationship is in my head, then it doesn't matter how my illness is fighting against me. I can still believe that we are friends. How about instead, we think our illness is doing stuff that we can't control, and we're going to still choose to believe this certain way about our illness. Does that make sense? Bring it back to like a human example. If my child says, Mom, I hate you. If my child were to say that to me, I would not think we have a bad relationship. I would think my child's having a temper tantrum and I love her no matter what, and she loves me. She just isn't showing it right now, right? Like, I would still believe that we had a loving relationship even if she said that, because I can decide whatever that means to me, right? I can decide that that means that we have a terrible relationship and she really does hate me. Or I can decide that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean she hates me. That means nothing. That just means she's having a temper tantrum and she's having an emotional day, but I know she still loves me. Like, doesn't matter what she says, I can still believe she loves me, right? If I want to, right? And I'm not saying we should at all. I'm not saying if somebody says, I hate you, that we necessarily should believe that, no, I still want to love that person. Maybe if it was your spouse, that might be toxic for you, and you don't want to believe that they do actually love you. But with a child, I might want to believe that. The idea is that you get to choose, right? If you want to believe that you have a loving relationship with someone, no matter what they do or say or don't do or say, or think or act or whatever, you can still believe that. Okay, we follow along there? So if we believe that, now it doesn't matter what our illness does to us, we can still choose to be friends with it. So let's go back to the definition of an enemy. An enemy is a person who is actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. So instead of let's thinking about our illness being an enemy to us, let's think about us being an enemy to our illness. Okay, because we can't control our illness, usually. We maybe can take medications, we can take certain diets or supplements or whatever that might help manage those symptoms, but we can't actually control our illness. Like, there's times where I take strong pain medications and they do nothing to my pain, right? We can't actually control it. We can manage it in some ways. But let's just say our illness we can't control, we can control ourselves. So we're going to say, instead of thinking my illness is being hostile to me, our illness is doing what it's doing, I am going to try not to be hostile to my illness. So I want you to think about that as yourself, not as trying to change your illness, because again, we really don't have any control of it. Do what you can to manage it, do what you can to decrease pain and symptoms, but at the end of the day, whatever you're still feeling, we're going to just let that be as it is, and we are going to choose to think a different way about our illness. So, enemy is a person who's actively opposed to or hostile to someone or something. How are you opposed to or hostile to your illness? How are you hostile toward talking about your illness? Are you angry towards your illness? Think about that. Okay, the next definition of an enemy is from Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And it says, one that is antagonistic to another, especially one seeking to injure, overthrow, or confound an opponent. And I see this in the way of sometimes we're trying to fight so hard against our illness that we end up making it worse, right? It says like one who seeks to injure their illness. And in a way, I'm like, sometimes when I push too hard against my illness and I'm butting heads with it so much, that's when I actually make things worse. I maybe pretend everything's fine and I try to just like pretend it's not actually there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to ignore it. And then, you know what? It gets much worse. I might be thinking, I know I shouldn't go to this outdoor party with my heat intolerance, but I really want to. And I'm just not going to deal with this right now. I'm just going to fight against my illness and I'm just going to go anyway. And then guess what? I end up injuring my illness, right? In a way, like I end up making it worse. Another thing, overthrow, right? We want to be in control of our own bodies. And so we're trying to overthrow our illness. We're like, I'm going to throw in all this medication and all this stuff to try to control my illness. That's what I think when I hear overthrow. Like I'm trying to control it in not the healthy way where it's like, hey, this is a good option for me. This is something that I want to try to help manage my symptoms. I'm talking about when I'm thinking I will only be happy if my chronic illness is gone. If I don't feel this symptom, then I'll be happy. I need to do everything I can to get rid of it. We talked in an episode about managing chronic illness symptoms when you have multiple chronic illnesses, about how when we try too many things at once, we don't even know what's working, first of all, and it's too much. And we get in this mindset of, I have to get a solution now. I have to figure this out now. But if we are more patient, if we decide, you know what, it's okay if it takes some time to find solutions that work for me, then you know what, it goes a lot better versus trying to force my illness to not be there and say, I'm just going to drug myself up with everything. I'm going to take everything anybody recommends to me. I'm going to spend all my savings doing this instead of logically thinking about what is actually a good idea for me to try, taking it slow, taking it calmly. If you want, that episode is called How to Treat Multiple Chronic Illnesses. Then go watch that one. But I do feel like I do that in a lot of ways. I'm trying to overthrow my illness. I'm trying to injure it. I'm trying to be hostile towards it. I'm opposed to it. I'm against it. Anything that it does, my brain is like anti. It's like my illness says, hey, we get extra sick if we go out in the heat. My brain's like, I want to go out in the heat so bad. That's all that I want. Even though in reality, if I didn't have this chronic illness, how often would I actually want to go out in the summer? I don't know. Maybe not as often as I think, because my brain wants to oppose it and go completely opposite of what it is. So if you feel like you are against your illness right now, in what ways do you feel that way? Think about it. How do you feel like your illness is your enemy? Here's the truth, you guys. It doesn't have to be. What if instead we viewed it as our friend? Just like no matter what my child says or does, I can still love that child with all my heart, right? Does not matter what they say to me, what they do to me. I will still love them with my whole heart. I will, right? It's like the saying, only a face only a mother can love, right? If somebody does these extreme things, but oftentimes, not always, oftentimes a mother still loves them. And then you see the other extreme, right? Where a kid is perfectly great and amazing and the mother doesn't love them because our relationships are in our brain. So with our illness, what if we stop thinking about it as our enemy? What if we let it be? We managed it as we could. We took the things and treatments that we want to tame the symptoms, but allowed the rest of it to go. Then we would be friends with our illness. So let's look up the definition of a friend. So Oxford Languages says, a friend is a person whom one knows and whom one has a bond of mutual affection. And again, I personally don't believe that it has to be going both ways. I think Often it does, because I like being friends with someone that I can tell likes being friends with me, but it's never required. It's never required. We can be friends with someone who hates our guts. It's true. We can believe that we're friends no matter what someone thinks about. So I don't believe in that mutual affection thing. I believe we can just decide a person whom one knows and who has affection. What if we had affection for our illness? What would that look like? I know it's kind of silly, but what would that look like? Like if we were kind to our illness, if we loved our illness like we loved a person, how would we treat it? Think about someone who has treated you badly and you still wanted to love them. Why did you do that? Why do you still feel that connection with them? It's a good thing to think about, right? Like, we can feel that way towards our illness if we want to. We can. Okay, a few more definitions. If we go to Merriam Dictionary, a person who has a strong liking for or trust in another person. What if we trusted in our illness? What if we trusted that it didn't need to go away? What if we trusted that our illness would tell us what we should and shouldn't do during our day? Or, I love this one, a person who has a strong liking for. What if you had a strong liking for your illness? What if you actually liked it? Okay, I know this sounds crazy. I genuinely like my illnesses. I think back to when I didn't have a diagnosis, and now I do, and I went for years of doctors telling me, nothing's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you, and then I finally got diagnosed. I'm so happy I have POTS because it tells me a name for what I've been feeling. I love having a name. I love being able to tell people I have POTS and being able to explain it to them because it makes me feel better than when I didn't have one. And so it's like, I actually like my illness. I like having a name for the symptoms that I'm feeling. I like it. I genuinely do. Maybe I don't like feeling the symptoms, but I still can like my illness. It's an option. It's an option. You can feel affection and you can like your illness. I don't know. Give it a try. Okay, I love this one. It says a person who helps support something. A person who helps support something is a friend. What if we supported our illness? What would that look like in your life? If you could be a support system to your illness instead of fighting against it, instead of pushing against it and saying, I have to get rid of you. I'm going to do all these treatments and all these things to try to push you away, and I'm going to try to numb you with pain medication. What if instead we tried to support it and said, hey, chronic illness, I know that you really struggle with blood circulation. How can I support you and help you? Oh, look, I can wear compression socks. That helps support you. That helps bring me some relief, but I'm supporting my illness. It's doing this thing. My body is doing this thing, and I'm going to support it. I'm going to be there to do treatments because I want to support my illness and bring it up instead of trying to avoid it or push it away, pretend it's not there, or trying to do everything we can to get rid of it. What if instead we were a support system? What I found with my YouTube channel is I have friends and family who say, Aimee, I support your YouTube channel and I watch every single video, and I'm like, that's great and awesome and I love you for that. But I don't necessarily need that to know you're supporting me. Like, my husband never has watched any of my YouTube videos. I don't think he's watched a single one, honestly. Yet he is the most supportive person of my endeavors than anyone I've ever met. Because he talks to me about it. He supports me financially in it. He gives me advice when I need it, right? Like, his support means so much, but he doesn't have to directly watch my videos, right? Same thing with our illness. We don't have to directly do something to our illness. We can support it in different ways. We can support it just by talking to it, right? Sometimes I feel like just allowing my pain is the best way to feel my pain. Instead of trying to push it away or distract myself, like, sometimes I just need to feel it and be there for it and allow it. What if we found a way to support our illness? I know it's crazy. Let's look at a few more. So I went on to yourdictionary.com. Never been there before. They had a bunch of different definitions from different places. And one is really interesting. It said, someone on the same side in a struggle. What if your chronic illness and you were on the same side in the struggle? What if you guys were going along this together? What if me and my illness were walking hand in hand as we go through the battlefield? We are walking together. It's not a separate thing. It's not fighting against each other. We're both in battle against something else. I don't know. It's just an idea. And then one more said being helpful and reliable. Like, what if we were just there for ourselves? What if we were just there for our illness? What if we were helpful to our illness and we weren't butting heads? What if we were friends, right? And think about this. How many of your friends do you have a 100% positive, happy relationship with all the time? You never disagree. I've never met anyone who I don't disagree with in some way. So our illness does not have to see eye to eye to us on everything. We don't have to enjoy all the things that it does. Just like I don't enjoy all the things that all my friends do. I don't enjoy all the things that my husband does. That doesn't mean that my husband's not my best friend. He is my best friend, even though we have very different views on different things. Sometimes he does something and I'm like, why in the world? I don't understand why you would even think that was a good idea, right? And my illness is the same thing. Like, why in the world, illness, would you cause such fatigue every single day? Why in the world would you give me such a migraine today? I don't have to enjoy it, but I can still love it. I can still be its friend. And I can still support it, right? When my husband does something that I don't agree with, I can talk to him about it. I can tell him, hey, I don't agree with this. I still love you. I still support you, but I don't agree with this. How can we work on this together? When my illness does something to me that I don't like, that doesn't mean we're not friends. It doesn't mean we have to butt heads. It doesn't mean we have to be enemies. We can walk this life hand in hand together. And we can still disagree on some things. I don't have to like everything that it does. I don't have to enjoy the pain. I just have to support it and love it and take it one day at a time. Right? We're going to have fights. We're going to have disagreements, just like every friendship. But we can work it out because all of my best friends, we work it out, even if we don't get along. And when my best friend has a hard day, I love her. I am there for her. I support her. I walk hand in hand with her, even if I can't change what she's going through, right? We can do that with our illness. We can walk hand in hand together. We can be on this journey of life together, and we don't have to push each other aside. We can support each other. We can try different things to help manage our symptoms, but we do not have to constantly be in a battle. Let's instead be in a battle with the outside world, right? Me and my illness together are taking on this world. Because when I'm walking hand in hand with my illness and I'm not trying to fight against it and I'm allowing it to be there and I'm not forcing it to change, I'm still giving it some suggestions. I'm still saying, hey, we could try this thing so that you're not so painful all the time. Or we could maybe take a step back from sugar. We could maybe change our diet a little. We could maybe try this supplement if you want. But I'm going to support you through all of it, and I'm going to do it because I love me, I love my body, not because I'm trying to take it down. And really, all this is a mindset shift, right? This is just the way we're thinking about our illness. If I thought of my illness as my friend instead of my enemy, how would I talk about it to other people? How would I think about it? What actions would I take? How would it be different when I went to the doctor? How would it be different when I tried a new treatment? Would I be more patient? Would I be more kind and loving to my body as it adjusts to a new medication? Would I be more kind and loving to my doctors when the treatment doesn't work? Right? Like, if we're friends with our illness and we're trying to just do this life together and we don't always see eye to eye, but we're just going to go on this journey together, then we're not in a hurry to get rid of it, which I have found only causes problems. It only causes us to get overwhelmed by all the treatment options, to spend too much money, to spend too much time focusing on trying to kill this illness. Instead, what if we decided, hey, I don't know how long this illness is going to be in my life. I don't know how long this best friend is going to live next door to me, but I'm going to just be there and support them as long as they're here. And then maybe one day this best friend moves away, aka maybe this illness someday gets cured or leaves my body. And if that's the case, I'll wish it well and I'll let it be on its way. But I'm going to love it while it's here. I've had friends who I was super close with and we had our fights, we had our disagreements, but then they moved away and we just haven't really seen each other since, unfortunately. But then I find new friends and new ideas. And as soon as your chronic illness leaves, something else would come that would need to be your friend or enemy in your life. So, while chronic illness is here, let's be friends. Let's stop being enemies. Instead of being antagonistic and seeking to be hostile and opposed to, what if instead we took a strong liking to? We trusted our illness. We found a bond of affection. What if we were on the same side of a struggle? What if we were helping and supporting our illness, as those dictionary definitions said? What if we could do that? How would that change your world? Because trust me, being an enemy to your illness will not help you find solutions faster. It will not help you kill the illness faster. It will just bring you down. So how about instead, we support our illness. We love it. We maybe disagree sometimes. We're just going to go hand in hand in this life together. And maybe someday our illness will move. But today, we're going to be friends. Give that a try. Let me know how it goes. And I'll see you on the next episode. Hey friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one-on-one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific real-world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.